Yeah.
And the reason why that can be a problem for the teams is that they're not very flexible, because then your choice is either you have this really annoying scale, which is like on the one hand, you give people unaggregated data,
Yes.
in the warehouse, which is clean, which is great. And they could, if they know SQL, and that's a big if, then they can answer any question they want with the data.
Yeah.
But they need to both understand the data and know how to query it. So that's one extreme. And for some teams, for small technical teams, that kind of works. So everyone understands the data, people can write their own queries. And then the other extreme is like if people don't have all the context on the data and they don't know how to write SQL, then you have to do it for them. And so you have this scale as like how much of the work does the data team do for the rest of the org? And one of those, is just such a common experience for data teams, which is that they have to answer every question by aggregating the data and creating a new table for each incoming request. Of course, that can also be at the BI layer. So maybe that's like a dashboard. But usually, not only are they creating a new dashboard for a new question, but they're also probably preparing a new underlying table to power that dashboard.
Yes.
And what we're trying to do with them. Well, okay, I'll stop there because I feel like
it's I think it's setting it up pretty nicely. So because let's say in this kind of world where still like a lot of people live, and I live in some kind of projects, we also live there. So whenever we get a let's say a ticket from marketing to say, hey, actually we now have this new product and we have this new campaign and we want to analyze this very specifically. What we do is we basically do a lot of stuff. So first of all, we try to we need to get some new sources in there, and then we spend and invest a lot of time in the transformation layer to create a very specific copy of this very prepared data. And let's say the setup sounds quite straightforward and pretty simple. So yes, maybe it takes a week or two to do all this stuff, but the problem piles up over time, because in the end, we might have, and I know some projects where you end up with, let's say, 45 to 100 of these kind of tables. And the problem has happened is like when something changes here or here. So for example, someone comes up, hey, actually, we want to calculate our funnel differently. So what we end up is so we not just have to do all the funnel definition, maybe on some layers down there on the transform layer, but we have to do this here for every of these 40, 50 different presentation tables that are used in the final dashboards. And this is usually the part where we screw up things, because either we forget something or we make it slightly different or it doesn't really fit anymore or whatever, and it creates a huge chaos and mess to some degree.
Yeah, and also just the natural instinct. So once you see a chart, I think this is the same for people that are highly technical and people that that don't have backgrounds in data. Once you see a chart or a table or some data, there's always a follow-up question. It's like, oh, I want to drill into that. It's like the what ifs. Oh, well, what if we do that? And that's actually what makes the data job so valuable, because we're trying to experiment and end up and ultimately make a decision of some sort. And it helps to, kind of have permutations of the question to play out different scenarios. So it's so rare that someone says, oh, I need this. You build it and you give it to them. They go, oh, great, thank you. It's answered my question. There's always a follow-up. And so,
around this, I think this is quite interesting, because I think around this there's always like a lot of tension. Because so business team is like, okay, I have this rare window of opportunity that I can get something from the data team. So now I have to be so clever to basically map out, so basically like Doctor Strange, so basically map out all the 1 million different kind of variants that the future can go, so that I can put up in my ticket what it should be, and then basically comes out like this huge monster where no one can really tackle. So this might be one scenario, because everyone is like afraid. Because what you just said, I think engineers always, on the other hand, hope that they just say, hey, you just have to have the right questions and we can do the right things. And I know from my experience, you cannot have all the questions in your head that you will have. So I have the same thing. I start out with the first analysis, and I usually come up with 10 other questions. And these often involved that I have to change something on the infrastructure side, because I think, oh, this dimension is missing. So maybe we still have to track it, or we have to pull it from somewhere. Then we have to push it through all the different kind of transformation until it ends up in the dashboard. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to say that the metrics layer means that data teams and the rest of the business are going to get on better. I can't promise that. But a good point you made was actually that asking questions can be really hard. And one thing that data teams can be great at is actually framing questions in the right way for the data. It's like, oh, do you actually mean that? Or, what decision are we trying to get to? And often it's the data team that can help map a kind of a specific question in that user's domain, maybe in sales or in finance or in marketing, and then translate that to more of a data question. And it would be great if we could spend more time helping people come up with the right questions rather than spending time doing the answering.
Yes.
It's like we end up spending a lot of time doing both, or sometimes, I suppose it's the time spent on answering them that is sometimes feels like a bit of a waste. You have to go back and change the daily table to a quarterly table. But the data team can provide. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say now.
No, I think no, I think. I mean, I think the initial thing is definitely right. So of course, like